Hello and welcome to today's class. So today we'll be dealing on first principle method of differentiation. First principle method of differentiation. So now this is the formula for first principle method of differentiation. F prime of x equals f open bracket x plus change in x minus f of x all over change in x, taking limit of change in x as 0. Okay, so let's solve an example for better understanding. Example 1. If y equals x, find dy all over the x using first principle method. Now, so this is how first principle works. You add change in y to the left, which is y, and add change in x to x. So what do I mean? Y plus change in y equals x plus change in x. Now, so change in y becomes x plus change in x. Y moves over to this side, it becomes negative y. Now, so substituting the value of y into the equation, let's call this equation 1. Into equation 1, we have change in y equals x plus change in x minus y here is x, so we substitute x in place of y. So x and x cancels out. Since we have positive x and we have negative x, so it cancels out. We are left with change in y equals positive change in x. So here we have change in y equals change in x. So what we do next is to divide through by change in x. So change in y divided by change in x equals change in x divided by change in x. So change in x cancels change in x, which gives us 1. So change in y all over change in x equals 1. Remember, in our first video, I told us that change in y all over change in x is same thing as dy all over dx. So the y all over the x here is 1. So let's solve another example. Example 2. Now, in our first class, I told us that y equals f of x. So assuming f of x is 6x squared plus 4x, that means y equals 6x squared plus 4x. Now let's find dy all over the x. Applying first principle method, what we do is to add change in y to y and then change in x to x. So we have y plus change in y equals, now so we have here 6x squared plus 4x. How do we add change in x to these numbers? Wherever you see x, add change in x to it. So we have 6 open bracket x plus change in x close bracket. Since there is a square to x, we add the square here, plus 4 open bracket, we have here x, so x plus change in x close bracket. Now, so what do we do next? Y plus change in y equals, here we have x plus change in x squared. Now if you expand this bracket, you would have 6 open bracket, x squared plus 2x change in x plus change in x squared, close bracket. And then if you open this bracket, you would have plus 4x plus 4 change in x. Now, so we have change in y equals, we move y to this other side, we would have 6x squared plus, now we are opening this bracket, 12x change in x plus 6 change in x squared plus 4x plus 4 change in x. Remember, we are moving y to this other side, so we have minus y. Since y is positive here and it moves to this other side, it becomes negative y. Recall, in our question, y is 6x squared plus 4x. So substituting y into that equation would have change in y equals 6x squared plus 12x change in x plus 6 change in x squared plus 4x plus 4 change in x minus, now we have y to be 6x squared plus 4x. Substituting, we have, this is the negative of y, so we have negative 6x squared plus 4x. Now change in y becomes, if you look at this, you would see 6x squared and negative 6x squared, so this cancels this. And we also have 4x and 4x, so this cancels this. So what we are left with is 12x change in x plus 6 change in x squared plus 4 change in x. So according to the first principle method, we are to divide by change in x. So we are dividing both sides by change in x. So we have here change in y all over change in x equals 12x change in x all over change in x plus 6 change in x squared all over change in x plus 4 change in x all over change in x. So here change in x cancels change in x. We have here change in x squared, so change in x cancels one of the change in x squared, and then we have change in x cancels change in x. So change in y all over change in x equals 12x plus 6 change in x plus 4. So according to first principle method, we take limit of change in x as 0. So wherever you see change in x, substitute 0. So it becomes change in y all over change in x equals 12x plus 6. Here we have change in x, so we substitute 0 plus 4. So change in y all over change in x becomes 12x plus 6 multiplied by 0 is 0 plus 4. Now, so change in y all over change in x becomes 12x plus 4. That's how first principle method works.